Seriously, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, and Czech Republic, why so sovereign? Embrace cultural annihilation. Diversity. Embrace diversity. Embrace progress. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Now, I'm so going to piss off a lot of people with this video, but I stopped caring. Things need to be said regardless of progressive German sensibilities. As you may know, last Wednesday took place the Council of Ministers of the European Union, where the issue of forced immigration quotas has been discussed. And this, behind me, and these four, are the flags of the only places in the European Union that can still call themselves nations. And yes, I have included Britain as well, although not thanks to its current political class, but thanks to the wisdom of Margaret Thatcher, who had the clear head in time not to drag Britain into Schengen and other collectivist bullshit that the EU has concocted over the years. As such, at last week's Council of Ministers, Britain could afford to say, you know what, fuck your council, we won't participate, we'll make our own rules on our own soil. To be completely fair, Cameron did that because there is also an EU referendum soon and he wants to win it. That is to say, to have Britain vote in favor of staying in the European Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. As such, the last thing he needs is a public statement of submission to the whims of Angela Merkel and François Hollande, the two idiots who purport to run Europe. And indeed they do run it straight into damnation. But enough about Britain, let's get back to my area. So, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania and Czech Republic opposed the idea of invaders' quotas, whilst the other 23 nations sent in pussies to represent them. Pussies who, of course, voted as they were told and in total defiance of the desires of the peoples they were representing. Because let's be clear, the pussies who voted in favor there have no connection whatsoever to the opinion of the peoples of Europe. Is anyone seriously believing that most of the Germans are very happy to see their country invaded by 1 million kebabs every year? Give me a break. You can sell these fairy tales to 5-year-olds, perhaps, but not to grown-ups. Take a closer look at the map with the objectors. What do these four nations have in common? It's certainly not religious denomination. Hungary is a conglomerate of Catholics and Calvinists, Romania is Orthodox, Slovakia is largely Catholic, and Czech Republic is majority atheist. It's clearly not language either. Czech and Slovakian are Slavic languages, Romanian is Neo-Latin or Romance, and Hungarian is not even a Indo-European language in the first place, but Finno-Ugric. What these four nations have in common is a long-time historical experience with totalitarianism. And I don't mean just the communist experience, but the experience with Islamic invasions. This is a plaque commemorating the Romanian soldiers who sacrificed themselves defending the gates of Vienna from Islamic invasion at 1683. Similar ones exist for Hungarian soldiers, Serbian soldiers, and Slovak ones. You see, resistance to kebab invasion is part of our DNA. Each of these four had to fight and regain its independence, and the fight was always with the religion of peace. That's why Hungary acts the way it acts, that's why Romania holds military exercises at the border and keeps the tanks around, and that's why the Slovak Prime Minister vowed to crap on the entire EU and simply lift a middle finger to the EU procedures. Because no matter what the Eurofanatics say, we simply do know better than them. What experience does Luxembourg have in fighting kebab? Or Belgium? Though if I want to be really mean, I should probably ask what experience does Belgium have at even being a country on its own? Did I offend you yet? If not, let's try some more hate facts. The progressive diversity lovers and our moral superiors of the Western European left would have you believe that this man is a fascist, whilst this nice fella here is just like you. Leave us alone is, therefore, a statement of hate, a xenophobic marginal position, whilst no democracy, we want just Islam, is just an innocuous expression of anger towards white cishet oppression. The trouble is that both of these positions, both leave us alone and no democracy, we want just Islam, are as mainstream as they can get within their respective societies, and they keep on growing. Militant political Islam is not some conspiracy theory, but a real and genuine threat that has been growing constantly for the last 5 years. Do you remember those stats that said that the world is getting more peaceful globally? Well, those stats were correct, but as of 2010, the trend started to be reversed yet again, with as much as 80% of the new violence being directly related to Islam. To believe that none of that would be imported and amplified into Europe is tantamount to magical thinking. And the peoples of Europe have gotten the message, despite what our moral superiors keep on spouting. The leave us alone message is starting to grow. The current government in Poland, which betrayed the Eastern European alliance and voted as they were told by Merkel, is bound to be kicked out of office in a month or so, and the new government is likely to receive further boosts at the polls following the last week move. In France, Front National keeps on growing as the mainstream parties collapse. The mainstream right, formerly UMP and now the Republicans, genuinely believes that they can serve Nicolas Sarkozy to the French public. And then, of course, they wonder why no one wants to vote for them, in spite of the fact that Hollande has proven to be infinitely worse. In Denmark, the Danish People's Party has risen out of nothing to win the European elections and to be the second party in this year's general election. And the support for them continues to grow even further, particularly since they started to publicly challenge the Swedish insanity on immigration. Speaking of Sweden, the Sweden Democrats are also on an uninterrupted growth trend, and in Finland, the nationalist party Perussuomalaiset has also come in second in this year's general elections, almost exclusively on the politically incorrect platform that the state-enforced salad multiculturalism is undesirable and harmful. Do I say this with joy? Well, no, not really. You see, Front National is an outright fascist party, but it speaks volumes about the political climate in France if all the establishment can come up with is more bullshit prosecutions on Marine Le Pen. And because of the prosecution, Front National now stands a reasonable chance of winning the regional elections this December in France. It's not like the socialists, National Socialists or International Socialists aren't experienced in exploiting victimhood for power or something. The Finns party, Perussuomalaiset, is openly defined as socially right-wing, but economically left-wing, which is cause for concern since the last thing any European nation needs these days is even more leftist economics. At least in Poland, the next government will be led by the party called Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, a political party that has a sound economic policy in addition to having a commonsensical position on mass immigration. So no, I can't really be happy that a bunch of socialists are bound to lead several nations of Europe just because they happen to agree somewhat with me on immigration. But one should not be mad at these political parties. They should be mad at the establishment which refused to hear and in some cases actively shunned and prosecuted any voice that dared to express any doubt or concern to the received German wisdom of everyone is welcome, let's create the multiculti paradise now. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that the more you suppress a message, the more it grows, and that the more you push on policies for which you don't have the consent of the people, the more the likelihood of a radical party to emerge increases. To make things worse, as I explained in this video as well, the entire tableau looks increasingly dangerous and with the potential to trigger a civil war. You may say I'm exaggerating, and I genuinely hope I will be proven wrong, but think about it a little bit. Do you think the Poles will just accept tens of thousands of non-Europeans overnight? Because let's be clear, the number put forth last week, 120,000 for the entire European Union, is a ridiculously low number that has nothing to do with the actual reality. In reality, there won't be 120,000 in 2 years, but more like 120,000 a week for the next 2 years. You think I'm wrong? There are 5 million migrants waiting right now in Istanbul to move to Europe. And there are more to come. And that's excluding those that are already here, which are more than 120,000. Because it's not just Syria, it's Iraq, it's portions of Pakistan, portions of Afghanistan, and other places that are either already moving or are prepared to move in bloc into Europe. I mean, heck, one of the many EU unelected bureaucrats, Commissioner Nobody, just announced us all to be prepared to be invaded by Lebanon. And whilst our moral superiors on the left lecture us that global warming is the cause, no, seriously, they actually believe that, the real cause is much more complex and has exactly nothing to do with global warming, but a lot to do with irresponsible leadership. But since not all of Europe is the same, the civil war scenario looks quite plausible. So I ask again, do you really think that the Poles, the Hungarians, the Croats, the Romanians or the Serbs will just accept a few tens of thousands of migrants overnight with no desire whatsoever to integrate and become one of them? If you believe that, you're in for a big surprise. Serbia is being flooded at this very moment with migrants stretching the patience of the common Serb as they see their fabulous capital being turned into an Islamabad. Less than 20 years ago, the Serbs responded to a call to arms against the Bosniaks, with whom they had far more in common. What makes you think that it's impossible for another Karadzic to emerge and issue a similar call to arms right now? In Croatia, the threat of a new rise of the Ustasha movement has been lurking around for over a year now as the resentment kept on growing because, you see, Croatia did not join the European Union. It was joined into the EU by Brussels via a referendum Irish style, in which the no side was banned from campaigning and with a lot of fraud in the ballot boxes. Add 30,000 migrants shoved down the throats of the Croats by Brussels and then come back and tell me I'm exaggerating when I say that the Croats will not take this lightly. In the city I live in early 1980s, the populace rose against the fact that the communist regime was receiving too many Arabs and was granting them privileges whilst the locals were living with rationed food, North Korea style. The incident was almost entirely erased from history by the communist authorities, but you cannot kill an idea. If under communist tyranny this city was willing to riot because of 3,000-something Arabs, what do you think will happen if 10,000 migrants are brought in overnight and the quiet, nice streets of this city suddenly become the playground for grenade attacks, Malmö style? Do you think the people in here will be happy and just write a petition and wait for the competent authorities to act? And look, I'm not saying this with any kind of joy, but these facts need to be taken into account. Unless, of course, the goal is to trigger a civil war, in which case we better prepare for that. And it appears that the goal is to force a civil war. At least if we are to take at face value the comments made by some other Commissioner Nobody from the EU who warned that we, the Central and Eastern Europe that is, have no experience with diversity, and the sooner we accept to have our societies transformed into Islamic hellholes diverse multicultural paradises like Malmö in Sweden, the sooner we accept that, the better. Any society anywhere in the world will be diverse in the future. That's the future of the world, said Commissioner Nobody, who only came in short in demanding that cultural Marxist governments be appointed against the will of the people. Now, listen, dickhead. Hungary, Romania, Czech Republic and Slovakia already have quite a lot of diversity. Just in the city I live in, here there is a British minority, a Hungarian minority, a Gypsy minority, a German minority, a Ukrainian minority, an increasing Greek minority, and an Armenian minority. We already have a lot of multicultural diversity here in Romania. The same is true for Hungary. The Budapest metropolitan area, which is home for a third of Hungary's population, also has a German minority, a Romanian minority, a Slovak minority, a Gypsy minority, and even a Chinese minority. You see, it's not that we're not used to diversity, it's just that our diversity is built naturally by people who come here voluntarily and with a strong will to integrate. These are characteristics that the EU-imposed migrant quotas simply do not fulfill. Those folks will not come here voluntarily, but rather sent in by force and have no desire whatsoever to integrate. And again, if you think that's going to fly over here, you're in for a big surprise. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Just the other day, the German media's headlines were all over the case of a 51-year-old nurse who has been ordered by the city to vacate her rented apartment to make room for more invaders. Of course, that's against the law, but the law no longer matters. It's full-blown government versus the people. How much longer do you think the tolerance will last until even the lefty useful idiots become sick and tired? This is a serious question. The story in Germany has all the ingredients to become the poster story of the anti-immigration movement. Time is running out, Mrs. Merkel. Tick-tock. The best solution so far seems to be segregation by religious denomination. Wow, much progressive. Such forward thinking. Way to go, Germany. And one last thing. The EU must choose, and must choose fast. Either it's free movement of the people and open borders, or it's quotas. You can't have both. If it's free movement of the people, then the whole quota business is idiotic, since you can't really force people to stay in, say, Slovakia when they don't want to. If it's quotas, then the whole Schengen business is idiotic, and it's about time to start admitting that. The idea that you can have both is so idiotic that only an East German commie could believe it. Oh, wait. Also, from a freedom perspective, if you want open borders entirely, then you cannot have a free-for-all welfare state. That's something that Eastern Europe actually understood. Getting the right to work in Poland or Romania or Hungary is actually quite easy. Getting the right to access welfare implies being a citizen first and foremost. And no, getting citizenship ain't easy. As late Milton Friedman explained multiple times, you cannot have open borders and big welfare state. You have to pick one. The belief that you can have both is what's driving most of the problems with this migrant crisis. Okay, I think that's enough for now. So what do you think? Am I being too harsh? Is it really that radical to believe in some sort of national sovereignty? Is it really that bad to be okay with migration from Britain or from Sweden or from the Netherlands, but not okay with immigration from Pakistan? Maybe it is. Tell me in the comments. Also, to keep these videos coming, please do consider throwing in some support. Thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.